Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vishavahai. Om Shanti 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 Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karunamai Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Okay, so today we're going to discuss essay number 7. Essay number 7 is about building a culture of peace. Building a culture of peace, and it's by Douglas Roach. Doug Roach is a parliamentarian. He has served in various, in the United Nations, in the government, in various fields, and what he really likes to, I guess, stand for is stopping armament, stopping the use of guns and too many nuclear weapons in many countries. So in this essay, he talks about how we can actually build a culture of peace in 3 ways. And the first is to understand, the second is to participate, and the third is to communicate. So before we get into the essay, he starts with what building a culture is like. If you can imagine, in many of our religious institutions, temples were built, mosques were built, churches were built, and these were way hundreds and thousands of years ago. These architectural structures were built, and they were laid brick by brick, step by step, they were laid. And when they laid these structures or these foundations, they had no idea what the effect would be to everyone. They had no idea how many people would actually come and pray, how many people would actually use it. So building a culture of peace takes a long time. It could be that somebody 1,000 years ago laid the first brick, not knowing how much peace a temple would bring. It could be that thousands of workers came together, putting their effort, so much effort together, laying foundations of all of these religious institutions, but they would never know what it would be like and how many people would seek refuge in them. So when we talk about building anything, it takes time. It takes a lot of time, and there's 2 ways to go about it. One way is to just force things to happen, to just force and say this is how things should be, and to start implementing certain things and start doing so many things and ordering everyone around. Well, in terms of a disaster, a catastrophe, or a crisis, that may be one way to work, by force. Another way to work is to just be patient and let things happen. Just watch for things to happen. Just sit there and just say, okay, things will happen. Everything will fall into place. But when we function like that, we risk being complacent because maybe we can do something to help it happen. So the way to work is not total force, nor is it total pushing back and just waiting for things to happen. The proper way to work is to create an environment, to flourish an environment where things will eventually happen, and they will eventually grow at their own time. This is how anything beautiful is built. I'll give you a very simple example from an avocado, and then we'll take it to a child, okay? So an avocado, if you force it to grow, what happens? First of all, it's that kind of fruit which ripens after you pluck it. It doesn't ripen there and then. When you force it to grow, you inject all of these things into it. It tastes bitter. It tastes bitter because, you know what? It wasn't ready to grow yet. You just made it grow and it just wasn't ready yet. So the sweetness will not be there in that avocado. At the same time, what if you have to make guacamole? And what if it's still so green? What are you going to do? What if you have planned to cook for your family and that's the fruit that you have and you need to make it work? What do? Well, if you're gonna wait and sit for that green avocado to ripen, it could take days and you might not have a meal. So what do? You take a brown paper bag and you stick the avocado in there and you put a banana. And then what happens is it ripens faster. But it's not ripening because you're injecting something in it. It's ripening because you're giving it the proper environment for it to grow. You're building the proper environment for it to grow naturally. That's what you're speeding up. You're not speeding up the person and hammering them. You're fixing or trying to nurture that environment so that naturally it will grow. So when we deal with children, when we force them to do something, it doesn't work. It doesn't work because there's no sweetness. They'll just be like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And there'll be a face, there'll be eye rolling, there will be complaining, there will be all kinds of things. Because you know what? They're not ready to do it. They don't get it. They're just doing it because we're making them do it. And as I said, when it's a crisis or a disaster, it's a whole other story. But this is when we're trying to build something. And if we just wait there and wait for our children to realize, oh my gosh, that could take years. That could take years before they actually realize something that maybe they need to learn right away. You know, maybe it's a skill. It's something that they need to learn right away because there's a need for it. So, if we cultivate that environment wherein they will pick up, they will learn, they will automatically gravitate towards it because you're creating the environment for it, then you know what? They're growing and we are building, but without that use of force. That's all we have to do to build a culture of anything. It's one thing to have rules, but it's another thing to inspire people to actually follow rules. And that only happens when we nurture, we create that environment. Create that environment of sanctity in your home, of cleanliness in your home, of order in your home. Then what happens is they grow to actually become like that. So that is how anything valuable is built in life, through our nourishing the environment. So now we cannot force people to think that everybody should be peaceful. We can't. It's just not gonna work. You know, we can't go out there and preach peace, 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 peace. We can't. But at the same time, we can't sit there and just watch things happen. So you and I, as citizens of this world, have to do what we can to create that environment for peace to blossom naturally. And how we create this environment for peace to blossom naturally is by these three methods. The first one is understanding. So understanding means actually we're not going to give, we're not going to serve, we're not going to love until and unless we understand each other. And one of our Swamiji said so beautifully, I mean, think of the world as not you separate, but as all of us are different cells in one body. Just think if we were all different cells in one body, and all of us have different functions. Some have a circulatory function, some have a digestive function, some have a respiration function, but we're all these different cells working in one body, living in one body. And when we understand this, that we're not only one from the pure consciousness level, this I'm sure all of you know, from the level of Advaita Vedanta, we are one from the level of pure consciousness. But not only from that level are we one. If you examine all of our lives, don't we have the same basic needs? All of us have the basic needs of food, of drink, of shelter, of clothing. We all have the same basic needs. We all have that need to be loved, to be accepted. We have these needs. Not only do we have the same needs, but we have the same wants. We are all seeking the same thing. Very beautifully, Puja Guruji had mentioned in Kathopanishad that even if we appear to have different desires, each desire is actually two desires. There's one which is the desire to be famous, desire to be rich, but in every single desire, there's a desire to be happy. So it's not just the desire to be rich, it's the desire to be rich so I can be happy. It's not the desire for love and belonging and acceptance. It's the desire for love and the desire to be happy because I want to be happy. So in every single desire, there's an underlying desire for happiness. It's there. If you look closely and think closely about it, it is very much there. So it's not that we have the same needs, but we have the same wants also. We all want to be happy at the end of the day. Just check out our desires. Check them out and you will see what the underlying one is. Not only that, but we are all going through the same things. Whether it is during COVID, pre-COVID, or post-COVID, we're all going through the same things because we all, as adults, maybe are trying to make a living, trying to earn, right? Maybe I'm very thankful that I'm out of that system, but most of the adults are earning, trying to make a living, trying to make ends meet, trying to put things together. Many families are going through that. Many families are going through finding ways and means to take care of their children because, sometimes they have to go out, they have to work, they have to do some things, and their children, that they have to figure out how to take care of their children. Many are going through things like, what to do now for retirement, what to do with all this money that we've saved up for a rainy day, and now we have to use it for something else. So wherever we are, whatever part of the world we're in, we're actually going through the same things. We're going through this whole thing of social isolation. How do you deal with it? How do you deal with staying home all the time? Right? There are people there who are so waiting for May 15 and saying, after that, I'm going to come out. And I'm like, oh, slow down. It will take 2 more months after that because everything has to happen gradually. So we are one on so many levels. It's not just the ultimate pure consciousness level. We are one on so many levels. And not only that, but we need each other. We need each other because we can't survive with each other. To have a computer in my apartment, America and China must come together and create, to make a MacBook, this Air Mac. If 2 countries must come together. to be able to have basmati rice for lunch or for dinner, Bharat Mata and America Pita must come together. These two countries must come together. Whatever we have is the conglomeration of countries coming together. Just look at your apartment and see how many countries exist in your apartment. Just look. I bet you more than 30 countries exist in your apartment. In our little bitty New York City apartments, there are 30 countries at least in there. If you look from your desk to your pots, to your pants, to your bed, to your yoga mat, to your clothes. We all need each other because different countries have different strengths. And as the Bhagavad Gita says, when we all work on each other's strengths and produce according to each other's strengths, then the whole world functions beautifully. So when we really take time and see how we are one on so many, many levels, there's a certain level of understanding that comes through. This understanding coupled with maturity, that I may be here in my little apartment, but I am one, really, with all. And when that feeling comes, then we will want to give. We had said before, you cannot love without wanting to give. We will want to give. We will want to participate. So the next step from understanding is find an area to participate. Each of us have to find in what is the best way I can contribute to this world. What is the best way? We don't have to do every single thing. Mind you, there's going to be so many offers that will come. Do service in this field, do service in that field, give in this way, give in that way. We don't have to do every single thing out there. Just pick one. Just pick one and give yourself to that one. That's all. Give yourself fully in a way that you feel you can give best. Nobody's judging anybody. We don't have to all give in terms of financial resources. Some of us can give time. Some of us can give ideas. Some of us can give connections. I mean, even by connecting people together, that is a service. So some of us can give in whatever capacity we can. There's still something we can give. Now, there are some times where we want to give, we want to change, but it can be disheartening. It can be disheartening because the system is just so corrupt sometimes. Sometimes there's so many things wrong with it. Sometimes there's just so many shortcomings. And sometimes we want to give. We want to readily give, but then we're looking at all of this and we're kind of turned off. And we don't want to do it anymore because why will we give if everything's becoming so corrupt? So sometimes this notion may come. So how do we do this? One is to find a place or find a space which is very pure and clean, which you know is pure and clean, which you can connect to, which you can actually see. That would be the best case scenario. Find a place that you can connect to personally so that you know it is pure and clean. But another beautiful way to do this is also be part of that system. So the way any change works, the way building a culture works or building anything works is a 4-step process. The first step is study the system. Study the system that you want to change or that you want to contribute to. First, study it. You see who's involved. You see what's happening. You see where can you make a difference. See, the problem with us is we feel like because we're so small, because we're individual, we can't make a difference. We feel like one person, what can one person really do? You know, what is this? What can one person do? But in our most recent times, one person can do a lot. Just look at Greta Thunberg, right? This environmental activist, just 16-year-old girl. She starts a protest, a protest in the Swedish parliament on Fridays. And she says, I'm going to protest because people are neglecting the environment. And she's 16 years old. She goes there, she stands on her own, she holds a sign. And what do you know later? Within a year's time, she meets leaders of various nations. She encourages environmental, protest against all these misgivings we're doing to the environment in so many countries. Thousands, millions of people are involved in this movement. Millions of people are standing up, are voicing out, and are joining her. And she's one person. That's why she's 16 years old. And she goes out and she speaks into the UN. And very beautifully, she says, obviously, this political thing is not going to work. I'm not coming here to ask you anything. I'm coming here to tell you something's going to happen. Change is going to happen. It's going to happen. Very bold, very brave. But she's one person. She's 16. Then you find someone who's elderly. This Uncle Tom, this Captain Tom in the UK, he just turned 100. He just turned 100 and he is a veteran in the UK and he wanted to raise money for the National Health Service. So he said he will walk in his garden 100, like 100 laps or something around his garden, and he wants to raise £1,000. Everyone was so inspired by him. He's raised over 30 million pounds. He's 100 years old. He's sitting in his house. He's walking in his garden. And he's raising money for the National Health Service. So if there is this misnomer that what can one person do, please think again. Please rethink again. I've given you 2 examples, but if you look in our history, there are many more. So the first step is to study the system, to see what you and I can do. See what is the need. And this is, Greta Thunberg, one very remarkable quality about her, she studied. She comes, she speaks with facts and figures. She's very well prepared. So study the system. The next is to be part of the system. So you go there and you offer your service. You go there and you give. You go there, you put out whatever you want because now you've studied the system. Now you know what's the need. Now you know who's involved. Now you know the extent of the issue. You know everything about the system, so now you be part of it. Play an active role. And what happens when you start to play an active role and you sincerely give whatever you have, then people recognize it. People recognize sincerity. They recognize that place where you're coming from. And when they see how sincere you are, then they will ask you to lead. The third step is you establish authority because they will ask you to lead. They will ask for your advice. They will ask for your guidance. So your authoritativeness is not because you're authoritative. It's not authority from being authoritative. It's authority coming from the people themselves. Coming from the people themselves saying, you know what? You've given all of this. We've seen your work. Can you please lead us in this? Can you please guide us in this? So it's not that do this, do that, do this. It's not that kind of thing. It's actually the people coming together to raise you up and say, please help us. And that's a very beautiful thing, because in your authority is the voice and trust of the people. You come into a position where you can make a change, not because of your own arrogance, but because of the trust and faith of the people. And when you are able to establish that authority, the fourth step is you make that change. You go for it and you make that change, because now you have the position to do it. Now you have the power to do it. But now you have the maturity to do it, the knowledge to do it. And most importantly, you have the faith of the people to do it. This is what it takes to participate and to build something. So, first, as I said, study the system. Second, be part of the system. Play an active role. Third is to establish authority, but not authoritatively. And the fourth is change. Change it. Now you can. So sometimes when we feel distraught about why fix it, why even try, why even bother? Why even bother is because it's worth it. And you and I have to love the cause so much that we're willing to put forth effort in these 4 steps. That is how to participate. After participation, he brings out this point of communicate. Communicate means to be able to share what we're doing. So one is to share, outreach, share with people through social media, through these various platforms. But another way to communicate is to build allies. When we work together, we can grow further. Alone, you can go fast, but together, you can go far. Together, you can go far. So when we have a cause that we're working for, build allies. Find people who are in the same area, who are in the same field, and unite together. Because together, you can do so much more. And you can go further. And the last point about communicating is the best way to get your message out. What is the best way to get your message out? Whatever culture you're trying to build. Remember, whatever I'm saying, you can apply in your own homes. You can take this whole thing and put it in your own house, and the parenting 101 is there. Whatever message I'm trying to communicate, the most effective way to communicate that message is to become that message, to live that message. We can only talk so much. We can build allies, which is fantastic. But the true message is really living it. Because when you and I live that message, who can doubt it? Who can question it? Nobody. Because they see that we have become the message. And that can be very inspiring. When we become the message. Now the last point he makes is, in and through our building a culture of peace, whether it be a culture of peace in our own selves, in our homes, in our nation, we have to risk not seeing the blossom. And he says a very beautiful thing, that, at some point in time, we might not see the blossom. On page 55, I'll just read 1 or 2 lines. The full blossom may not appear until my grandchildren or their grandchildren have grown up. I accept the prospect that I will not see the blossom. The immediate goal is for every generation to ensure that there will be a following generation. The advance of civilization thus far tells me that humanity is not fated for oblivion. Indeed, the new interconnected human community is a source of strength to continue building the culture of peace. So sometimes when we are working on such long-term projects, we might not see the results. We might not see what's going to happen. And this is very tough for some of our Generation Z, because our Generation Z, they just want to see the impact. I want to see what kind of impact I'm making. And I want to know, I'm not seeing any impact here, so I can't work in this company anymore. So many people, so many youth that I've spoken to have that feeling. 3 months they're into the job and they're like, I'm not seeing the impact I'm making. Well, who said that impact takes 3 months? It takes years, sometimes even lifetimes. And you and I have to be okay about not seeing it. Not seeing the full blossom, not seeing the impact. We have to be okay that it's happening even if we can't see it, even if we can't experience it. Now, some people might question, how do you work like that? How do you work without seeing some kind of impact that you're making? What is the trick? So you're not seeing the blossom without. But remember, there's a blossom within. That's the most beautiful blossom. So we might not see what's happening outside. We might not see how many people are actually appreciating, how many people are actually thinking or benefiting from this. We might not know. But something for sure is happening is that we're all growing within. We're all blossoming within. By giving, we are becoming better. We are becoming purer. We are growing closer to the goal of realizing the truth. Remember, whatever I've spoken about, the first priority is always self-realization. And it will always be that. I will never falter from that. But this is a sure shot method to purify oneself deeply to prepare ourselves for that path. So even if I'm not seeing the blossom without, am I not seeing the blossom within? And when you and I see that, then that can be a very inspiring step, very inspiring method to continue. You know, in Chinmay Mission, we do so many classes, we go to so many talks, whatever, we have no idea what's happening. I have no idea what's happening in your houses. If you're picking up the books and if any understanding is taking place, no idea. But I must tell you, I'm so grateful to you because even through reflecting on this material, I am growing and I am feeling that growth. So I have no idea what's happening there, but I'm grateful to you because I'm growing in here. And that keeps me going. That growing keeps me going. So this is how to build a culture of peace.